Peace is not just the end of war or conflict. Real peace means also the end of discrimination, prejudice, injustice, and inequality. So those are the essential elements of my motivation for the culture of peace.
I'm your host, Eileen Boris, and I'd like to welcome you to Political Forgiveness Voices of Peace, a podcast of hope where forgiveness and political forgiveness intersect to create a better world. Today, my guest is Ambassador Chowdhury. I met Ambassador Chowdhury many years ago at the United Nations through a friend of mine who was telling me a bit about Ambassador Chowdhury's work in developing the culture of peace and his interest in forgiveness. At the time, I was working in Washington, D.C. at the Institute for Multi-Track Diplomacy, and I remember the excitement I was feeling while traveling to New York in anticipation of our meeting. Little did I know that I was going to be meeting a great man, a bodhisattva of sorts, a man who has worked tirelessly to alleviate the plight of people suffering from poverty. Ambassador Chowdhury is a career diplomat who served as ambassador and permanent representative of Bangladesh to the United Nations from 1996 to 2001, and as the Under Secretary General and High Representative of the United Nations, responsible for the most vulnerable countries from 2002 to 2007. Part of Ambassador Chowdhury's legacy is his pioneering initiative, which took place in March 2000 when he was president of the Security Council for the achievement and adoption of the groundbreaking UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which recognized for the first time the role and contribution of women in peace and security. He is an inspirational champion for sustainable peace and development, advancing the global movement for the culture of peace worldwide. Ambassador Chowdhury found the Culture of Peace as a coalition of non-governmental organizations at the forefront of advocacy for the implementation of the UN decisions on the culture of peace. Welcome, Ambassador Chowdhury. I was reading a wonderful book written by you and Dr. Akita, Creating the Culture of Peace, which touched me profoundly and was very inspiring. And it also ignited my yearning for public service and my desire to be more involved with the United Nations. I remember you talking about the culture of peace and that its foundation had three elements. First, your parents and the values they instilled in you, the nature of Bangladesh, and the liberation war of Bangladesh. And so I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what informed you early in life that got you interested in peace, and how you made it all the way to become an incredible ambassador from Bangladesh.
Thank you, Eileen, for your kind introduction and for mentioning about my co-authored book with Dr. Daisaku Ikeda titled Creating the Culture of Peace, and a clarion call for individual and collective transformation. That is a key element in my efforts for transforming the global community towards positive peace. You mentioned three elements in that book: the values and ethical perspective in my mind was created by my parents and my extended family. The second element that you mentioned was the land of Bangladesh, my motherland. And then third, you mentioned about the war of liberation, the independence movement of Bangladesh. The third element has a major focus on my career, my life, my current inspiration, and extraordinary element in which my passion for and faith in the culture of peace has its foundation is that I joined the War of Independence for Bangladesh, which reached the high point in March 1971. Since I was a diplomat by profession, my efforts focused on mobilizing international support for our sovereign existence as a nation. I was seriously moved and traumatized by what I saw and what I heard from the fleeing refugees after the military crackdown on unarmed civilian population of my country, the Bangladesh. And I believe encouraged me to take up my diplomatic career, and now I am so-called a retired person since 2008, when I left my last formal job at the United Nations. Before that, in 2001, I ended my career as a Bangladesh diplomat after being the ambassador of Bangladesh to the United Nations. I believe that prompted me to pick up issues which will give me an opportunity to profile my newly born country. I came to the United Nations in New York in 1972 for the first time. My government sent me to New York to work for Bangladesh's membership to the United Nations. So that started my whole career and life and attachment to the global goals of the United Nations. It started with issue of population. The large population of Bangladesh created many obstacles to our development efforts. From that, I came to know about the role of mothers and how their children grow up under their sort of nurturing. And then from that issue of population increase, I went to talk more about women and children. I found that women and children have a very positive role in promoting peace and human rights. That segued me into the culture of peace. And I think you know that quest for peace is the longest ongoing human endeavor, but it runs alongside many of the things that we do on a daily basis. Peace is integral to human existence, and in everything we do, in everything we say, and in every thought we have, there is a place for peace. I think this is what motivates me very much, that we should not isolate peace as something separate or distant. Peace is also not just the end of war or conflict. Real peace means also the end of discrimination, prejudice, injustice, and inequality. So, those are the essential elements of my motivation for the culture of peace.
If somebody came up to you and asked you, what does the culture of peace mean? What would you say to them?
Yes, if you ask me that question, I would tell them that in simple terms, the culture of peace means that every one of us needs to consciously make peace and nonviolence a part of our daily existence.
I love that you bring this into our daily existence so people understand that this is not some kind of ephemeral thing we're looking towards. It's something very practical and important, and that we can practice it every day.
Yes, yes. That is very important. And I believe that each and every individual is important to the process of transformation to secure the culture of peace. Each person must be convinced that nonviolent collaborative action is possible. International peace and security can be best strengthened not by action of countries alone, but by men and women through the inculcation of the culture of peace and nonviolence in every human being and every sphere of our activities. The objective of the culture of peace is the empowerment of the people. If we believe in culture of peace and promote it in our daily activities and existence, then I think it will lead to a critical mass which will be the collective force of society.
I'm curious, why did you choose the development of the culture of peace as your focus?
Culture of peace is not a quick fix. It takes longer time. It's an objective with a long haul as our goal. And I say that culture of peace is not a revolution. It is a movement. So that is why it takes time. But I think the moment the individuals in our society should understand the value of the culture of peace and feel and realize how positively it can affect all human endeavor, I think we will be better off. And that is why I bring in individual contribution to the culture of peace important and as most significant in our efforts. Political leadership is important because we want the culture of peace to start not only at the individual level and community level, but also at the national level and then regional and then global. But that process has to be sustained by individuals. The governments come and go. Many countries have 4-year terms of office, like in the United States. Many countries have 5-year terms of office, like mine in Bangladesh. So the political process always encourages the politicians to see what will get them elected or re-elected in the political process. So culture of peace is not something which promotes that kind of objective. So that's why many governments, I find, are not very much keen in promoting the culture of peace because they believe that it does not politically serve them well. So that is why I am focusing on the communities, mayors of cities who can come in to promote the bigger interest of the community, take care of a peaceful environment, take care of preserving their ecological balance, take care of their children growing up in a wonderful, peaceful atmosphere, and take care of their seniors and aged in a nice way. So in that way, a community provides the best opportunity to promote the culture of peace rather than broad national level. So recently, in the 40th anniversary of the organization called Mayors for Peace, based in Hiroshima, I exhorted them to promote the community level culture of peace, and they had three or two basic objectives of their organization. And there I said, you have decided, in addition to your two major objectives, one is nuclear disarmament, second objective is as mayors to create safe and resilient societies or communities. And then third, they added that their objective is to promote the culture of peace. So that inspired me immensely. This organization has 8,000 cities of the world, nearly 700 mayors as part of the organization. This is a wonderful opportunity for them to promote the culture of peace. That is why I believe that the community level focus is very necessary.
I love the story of the mayors for peace, and I'm so glad you're bringing that up. Are there some mayors within the United States that are involved with this program?
Yes, I would say one example I will give you, which has a kind of influential role. I shared their story in Hiroshima at the 40th anniversary conference for the Mayors for Peace. This is a city in the state of Oregon called Ashland. Ashland Mayor's Office encouraged the civil society activists to create an Ashland Culture of Peace Commission, ACPC, they call it. And then this entity has tremendous societal and organizational support from the mayor's office, from the police commissioner's office, from the teachers association, from civil society organizations, even from cultural organizations. So I believe that Ashland has done a wonderful job, and many of the cities, like mostly in the West Coast, many cities have taken up efforts to promote the culture of peace and safe cities in their communities. And many have also wonderfully integrated their role to promote women's equality and empowerment and the culture of peace, which I believe are very important. We will now go back next month in September. The international community will commemorate the adoption of the United Nations Declaration on and Program of Action on a Culture of Peace. And that document is considered a monumental assertion by the United Nations that transcends boundaries, cultures, societies, and nations. That inspirational action took place more than 25 years ago, on 13th of September 1999. It was an honor for me to chair the 9-month-long negotiations that led to the adoption of this historic norm-setting document through consensus by the United Nations General Assembly. In addition to the Charter of the United Nations, this Declaration and Program of Action emphasizes solely on promoting peace. So this is the only document of the UN 100% devoted to the promotion of peace with the future in mind. My life's experience has taught me to value peace and equality as an essential component of our existence. I believe that they unleash the positive forces of good that are so needed for human progress. This program of action has 8 action areas to highlight, and it starts with education, human rights, sustainable development, equality between women and men. So that equality and empowerment of women is very much integral to the culture of peace.
Everyone can contribute to the culture of peace and recognize that peace is not separate from our daily lives. We should know how to relate to one another without violence, without disrespect, without neglect. And so when I think about what political forgiveness is, the process of repairing fractured relationships within a political context, such as between communities, nations, or groups within society, the ultimate goal of political forgiveness is to reconstruct communal relationships and renew social trust, thereby promoting peace and stability. How do you see the work of forgiveness play a role in the work you are doing with the culture of peace?
Well, I believe this very important concept of forgiveness is essential in many ways. We have seen countries coming out of conflict setting up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to promote understanding. Society should come together to say, let's forgive the past, but not forget the past at the same time, to promote our social cohesion, promote us to work together. And that has been shown so effectively in countries like South Africa. Nelson Mandela created that spirit and brought the communities together, though they are still suffering from many conflicts and internal troubles. But I think that has helped many countries like Rwanda, Burundi, Liberia, Sierra Leone to develop the spirit of forgiveness, to bring various elements of societies coming together. I have found many places the victims' families and the perpetrators' families came together to forgive and give each other efforts to live together in the same community. These things are important for the spirit of forgiveness in every aspect of our life. And I believe that in addition to forgiveness, Eileen, in your book, you mentioned the value of gratitude.
Right.
Gratitude is essential, grateful for the positive things of life and strong enough to forgive the negatives, not hold on to anger and resentment. We are better equipped to make our life look up. Revenge, either as a political motivation or as an individual motivation, doesn't do any good. That makes the perpetuation of this conflict mode forever. I often quote a sentence which says, "An entire sea of water cannot sink a ship unless it gets inside the ship." Similarly, the negativity of the world cannot put you down unless you allow it to get inside you. So that is a very important thing. In Mother Teresa, the Nobel Peace Laureate, has lamented by saying that the greatest disease today is not cancer. It is being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. She said we can cure physical diseases with medicine, but the only cure for despair and hopelessness, hatred and prejudice, violence and conflict is love and compassion. And love and compassion is the essential core values of forgiveness.
As I was reading the book that you wrote, Creating the Culture of Peace, there was a poem that really spoke to me, that I felt captured your essence, your soul. You're going to recognize it. It's by Tagore. And the poem is, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits, where the mind is led forward into ever widening thought and action, into the heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake." I think you will recognize that.
Yes, you know who wrote that?
Right.
I think he won the Nobel Literature Prize in 1913. He wrote that, and it is one of my most favorite poems by Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you, Eileen, for quoting that poem from the book.
How has the work you've been doing, developing and promoting the culture of peace, changed your life?
I became the ambassador of Bangladesh to the United Nations in 1996. And then, 97, I was thinking time and again what I can do which will promote not only the global goal of the United Nations, but also the individual countries' national objectives, including my own country. And then I came to know about this UNESCO Constitution's focus on creating peace. So there I found that this is something I should focus my efforts on. And I believe that that encouraged me to take this 9 month long effort to chair the negotiations for this document on Declaration and Program of Action on the Culture of Peace by the General Assembly.
If there's one thing you would like to leave with the audience, what would that be?
I would say it is very important for each one of us to have faith in the culture of peace by embracing the culture of peace and nonviolence in our own activities, daily activities. Sometimes peace activists protest about negative things, war and conflict, and then we come home and we become our own violent self. That is something we should feel that it should transform me in a way that I remain a continuously a positive person in the world to promote peace and many other good things. Your positivity allows you the opportunity to work for good things of life, good things which benefit not only yourself and your family or your children, but everybody else, the society, the community. Last year, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Culture of Peace Program of Action and Declaration. The resolution of the Security Council 1325 this year is its 25th anniversary. And in October, we will celebrate that. And I believe that I have been able to promote these two together in a wonderful way for 25 years. And I believe that I made my humble contribution to the world to profile this concept of culture of peace and equality and empowerment of women.
It's a huge contribution that we are so indebted to you for. The importance of changing our consciousness and transformation of our consciousness, which is what you're talking about. One of the things that I really loved when I was reading your book was how you grew up and from the way your father brought people into your home and how you were helping people and you saw that at a very early age and you became very sensitive to the vulnerable. And I know that was a great motivation for you. And it's because you have developed a certain kind of consciousness which led you to really care about developing and promoting a culture of peace. And it is about self transformation. And it is about our commitment, I believe, actually, our responsibility as global citizens to step up in our own growth. How can people learn more about the culture of peace and possibly get involved with the global movement?
However much the world around us changes, we cannot achieve peace without a change in our own minds and therefore in the global consciousness. This connection between individual and global and individual impressed me, and I continue to focus on that. For that, we need a kind of spirituality in our hearts. That spirituality is an essential and universal human experience. And I agree with you that this transformational objective of the culture of peace is very important and still remains unrealized in a big way. So we continue our effort, a lifelong effort, working for peace, understanding, solidarity, human oneness, and global citizenship. I believe that the culture of peace and global citizenship are two sides of the same coin, and they promote the global vision for a peaceful world.
I want to thank you so much, Ambassador Chowdhury, for graciously giving us your time and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. For all my listeners, You will read in the show notes more about Ambassador Chowdhury and a reference to his book, Creating the Culture of Peace. It's a book you will enjoy, and I'm sure it will inspire you to take the next step in helping to build a culture of peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. It was a great pleasure to join you in this podcast, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for joining us in listening to Political Forgiveness, Voices of Peace, where I hope you were inspired by the work of forgiveness in creating social change. If you know of anyone who would find this episode helpful, please share it. For more information on political forgiveness, please visit my website, drboris.com, where you can find all the resources mentioned in the podcast, as well as sign up for the newsletter with the latest information on political forgiveness.